Think back to a time when you were a young kid and you had a toy or something that you enjoyed playing with. Maybe it was an action figure, ball cards, old coins, or just something that you loved to collect. Years later, did you find out that that toy you once had was now considered a collector's item and, depending on the condition, worth a lot of money? Do you look at your life and see all the things that you did and now feel like if you had done things differently as a child or young adult, then you would feel more valuable? Well, in this episode, I'm going to discuss how God used mighty men that felt they had low self-worth to overcome obstacles, and how you too can overcome feeling depreciated and see your true value in this episode of the 318 Project.
This is the 318 Project, a guide to equip men through godly principles and develop as husbands, fathers, and sons. And now, your host, Ryan Hare.
Hello, I'm Ryan Hare, and welcome to the 318 Project. You have probably heard the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe even one man's junk is another man's treasure. So what determines the value of an item? Many things can go into determining what an item is worth. You may have several people look at the same item, and each one may see something different about that item. One person may see a crack or a flaw and feel that it doesn't have much value, while another person sees the same issues but feels the uniqueness of that item gives it more value than it originally was worth. Most people, when they want to know the true value of an item, they will take it to an expert that has worked or examined many similar items to give an accurate appraisal of that item. As I've shared before in other episodes about a skit called God's Chisel. In it, one man is praying in frustration when God appears and talks with him about how he, God, sees him. The gentleman says, "I'm junk." God's response to him is by saying, "What does that say about me? I don't make junk." In Judges chapter 6, we read where the Midianites had oppressed Israel for 7 years. At that time, God sent the angel of the Lord to Ophrah. There, the angel found a young man, Gideon, threshing wheat in a winepress to hide from the Midianites. In verses 11 through 23, you read that the angel tells Gideon that he will be the one to deliver Israel from the hands of the Midianites. Verse 12 reads that the angel says to Gideon, "The Lord is with you, O valiant warrior." Gideon's response in verse 15 was, "Please, Lord, how can I deliver Israel? Look, my family is the weakest in Manasseh, and I the youngest in my father's house." Gideon was basically saying, "I am junk." Even after he tells the angel, "If I have found favor with you, give me a sign that you are speaking with me." While Gideon saw himself as the runt of his family, that he felt was the weakest tribe of all of the Israelites, God saw a mighty warrior. Even after God affirmed Gideon, he still had doubts that he even asked God to show him a sign 3 times with a fleece. Through all of the doubts of his worth, God used Gideon to deliver Israel from the Midianites, and he was a judge over Israel for many years. God would even send the prophet Samuel to anoint David as king. God instructed Samuel to go to Bethlehem, to the house of Jesse, and anoint one of his sons to be the next king of Israel. Jesse brought each of his sons before Samuel, except David. As each son passed by Samuel, he thought, "Certainly the Lord's anointed one is here before me." In 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance, of his stature because I have rejected him. Humans do not see what the Lord sees, for humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. Samuel would then ask Jesse if he had any other sons, and he had him call for David, who was out in the fields tending the sheep. Jesse didn't even see the worth of David, his own son, to even call him before Samuel. Yet God saw David's heart and told Samuel to anoint him the moment he saw him. So going back to the introduction, as a kid, I loved collecting ball cards, especially baseball cards. I would save my allowance, and when I was able to, I would ride my bike up to the store to get some packs of cards. Other times, my parents would take me to a card shop that was close by, or even to occasional card shows. I would always look for certain players that I loved to collect, or just simply sometimes getting cards that I needed to complete a set. Over the years, my collection grew, and as I got older, I kept the cards. I still have them, but didn't have the interest like I once did. From time to time, I would check to see what the value of some of the cards were. Some had increased in value, but most didn't have much value because the card industry had crashed the market years before, and most cards lost their value. Then, about a year or so ago, I saw a video where a collector was looking for a certain card. I'm sitting there and I thought, I still have that card. I wonder what it's worth now. I looked it up and saw that it had gained some value, as well as some of the other cards that I collected. Most still didn't have much value. But when I was checking, I saw that the card industry had changed how they produced cards because of what had happened years before from the mass production. They made cards still, but they made some in unique styles, different variations, and even some limited number editions. This created a market where now collectors and card dealers were inflating the prices of many cards, not because of how great a player is or what accomplishments they had done in their career, but simply on the rarity of that special specific card. Then you also see where people have auctions that allow people to bid on items. We see it on sites like eBay that allow you to bid on things people are selling. Even auction houses will have them where they allow the people to bid on items of artwork or other rare and unique items such as paintings, sculptures, vehicles, antique items, or vintage memorabilia. During an auction, you may see where several people really like the same item, and that begins a bidding war, which raises the value of the item. While the item may have been appraised at one value, now with them bidding, the item may cost 2 or 3 times what they thought it was originally worth because they both felt, I have to have this. During these auctions, the auctioneer may ask, are there any more bids, to allow others to place a higher bid. But they also have auctions that are called sudden death. These type of auctions are where there is a set time limit that counts down with no extra time added, and the last bid in wins. In these auctions, especially online ones, you can put in a maximum amount that you are wanting to bid on an item. You may have the high bid, and then the next person may add an amount. But if it's lower than your maximum bid, your bid would only go up above their bid and not to the maximum amount. So you may win an auction for a lower amount than you were willing to spend, and even less than maybe what it's actually valued at, which is a deal for you. But that is how it is in yours and in my life. We may look at what has happened. We may see the scars, the pain, the heartache, the rejection. You may have struggled through an addiction, gone through a divorce, lost a job, or something that you feel makes you less valuable. See, I recently read an article by Dr. Doug Stringer. He talked about the art of kintsugi. In Japan, if someone breaks or chips a cup, plate, or vessel, they don't throw it away. Instead, they will take the broken or chipped pieces to a craftsman for repair. The craftsman will use the art of kintsugi and repair the damaged items by using this is great, gold or silver to fill in the cracks. Over time, an item may have several cracks, but with each repair, its value increases. With the brokenness, the vessel has greater value now than before if it had never been damaged. Doug states that the art of kintsugi is the ability to see value in brokenness. See, it is in our brokenness of sin and shame that God saw. God paid the greatest cost when his son, Jesus, as the perfect sacrifice, went to the cross and allowed himself to be broken for us. God sees the value in you and me. And when Jesus went to the cross and gave his life for each of us, he gave us a priceless value in his kingdom. It was in that sudden death moment that when Satan thought he had Jesus and mankind defeated, Jesus and Satan saw a value in mankind. They each had a different perspective, but Jesus had a far greater maximum bid that Satan couldn't match. When Jesus went to the cross and said, "It is finished," that was the maximum bid that Satan could never match. He had the greatest bid, the highest bid, no matter what Satan tries to offer you or tell you that you are worth. Your worth is far greater. As Ephesians 2:10 says, and this is with emphasis added, I want to say, you are his priceless workmanship, his masterpiece. So I thank you for joining me on this episode. I want you to take some time to reflect about how God sees you and not just about how you or others see yourself, because many times we undervalue our true worth. And if you still feel that you are junk, then I want you to take some time after this episode to just reflect and go to God in prayer and ask him to let you see yourself as he sees you, that priceless masterpiece, because you are priceless. Don't ever forget that. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the 318 Project. And as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with others. And as always, I want you to have a blessed and wonderful day.
Thank you for joining on this adventure of integrity and honor in godly masculinity. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with other men. And remember to keep building faithful men.